It's time.
The Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift is just around the corner and we couldn't be more excited about it. It's set to be a monumental moment in women's cycling, and of course, in this video we have our big preview of the race ahead.
We are going to run you through the route, all the key stages and the riders who might find themselves in that iconic yellow jersey. Plus look at those who might be after stage wins, as well as anyone we think has an outside chance of success.
Let's get into it.
First up, we are delighted that all 8 stages will be shown live on the GCN app with a pre and post race show, so you won't miss any of the action. Territory restrictions apply, but the good news is that more of you will be able to watch live and on demand than the men's race, so we hope you can join us for all the action. You can watch live if you're in Europe, Asia Pacific, excluding Japan, China, New Zealand. Middle East and North Africa can watch, and if you're in Latin America, you'll be able to watch the race too.
This will be the very first edition of the Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift. The race has been a long time coming in women's cycling and it's finally here. And it will take place from the 24th to the 31st of July. This historic race will see riders covering 1,029 kilometres over 8 stages. The last day of the men's Tour de France is the first day of the women's and will overlap on the Champs-Élysées in Paris.
It is going to be a phenomenal day of cycling to watch in Paris. Now, the length of the men's and women's race may differ, but the classifications will be identical, with a yellow jersey for the leader of the overall, a green jersey for the leader of the points, and a polka dot jersey for the leaders of the mountains, and finally the white jersey for the best young rider. There will also be a prize pot of €250,000, making it the most lucrative race in women's cycling.
There have been 24 teams invited to take part in the inaugural edition of the race, which includes 14 World Tour teams and 10 continental teams. Each squad can field a maximum of 6 riders, making for a peloton of around 144 riders starting out in Paris.
Right, let's move on to the route and the stages. There will be 2 defining mountain stages and 4 flat stages, and we even have some gravel thrown in there too. Let's take a look.
As we first mentioned, the first stage will be held on the iconic Champs-Élysées on Sunday, the 24th of July. This will be the shortest of all the stages at just 82 kilometres, and the stage starts next to the Eiffel Tower before overlapping with the men's Tour de France on the Champs-Élysées. Both the last and first stage of both those races taking place on the same day. The women will tackle 12 laps of the 6.8 kilometre Champs-Élysées course, including 2 sprints and 1 Queen of the Mountain just after 62 kilometres. We say QOM, but it's a very, very tame climb, we may add. Not sure you can even class it as a climb, actually. We may even see a sprinter taking the first polka dot jersey.
Yeah, we might. The first stage will be the sprinter's best opportunity to grab that yellow jersey. And I'm sure we will see some very well drilled lead-out trains coming down the Champs-Élysées. Gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. And I spoke to Elisa Balsamo at the route reveal last year. And this is the stage she is most excited about, and what a stage it will be. And it will suit her very well as a host of other sprinters.
I think it might be the stage I'm most looking forward to as well. You know, the Champs-Élysées is such an iconic spot, and to have the women's race start just as the men's finishes is a great idea. Thousands and thousands of fans will be lining up to watch this race set off, but the racing, of course, won't stop there.
No, it won't. The second day is from Mau to Provence, and a slightly longer stage than the opening one at 135 kilometres, where the riders will ride across the Brie region.
Oh, tasty.
Very tasty. This is another flat stage and one for the sprinters.
We could see a very aggressive start to the race as the riders have a Queen of the Mountains just after 15 kilometres. There will be a sprint towards the end of the stage at kilometre 1162.
Also worth noting that there is a slight drag to the finish on this stage too, so could suit the punchy riders more than the out-and-out sprinters.
Stage 3 will be the most challenging so far for the riders as they head from Route to Epernay, tackling 133 kilometres with 5 classified climbs.
In this stage, we could see those climbs used as a launch pad to get a breakaway up the road. We also have another late sprint into the stage at 112 kilometres.
Worth noting that at kilometre 1172, we have a spicy climb, just under 1 kilometre long, but average gradient of 13.9%. If the riders really attack this climb, we could see splits and a group getting away over the top, maybe even a solo attack to the finish, getting some precious seconds for any GC hopes.
This stage is also the same stage that the men rode back in 2019, where Alaphilippe won solo to claim his very first yellow jersey. Could we see a similar style of racing in the women's race this year?
Stage 4 is another one that I am just so excited about. We've got a jam-packed stage, 6 QM climbs and 4 gravel sectors over 126 kilometres between Troyes and Bar-sur-Aube as the race continues to head east through France.
And yes, you did hear right though, gravel, very similar to the white roads of Strade Bianche. And this could be one of the toughest stages of the race, and not because of the elevation, but due to those rough gravel sectors. Positioning and bike handling is going to be crucial to the GC riders, but also punctures could ruin the hopes in this stage. Plenty of short, sharp climbs towards the end of the stage too. Definitely not one to miss.
Yeah, definitely not one to miss. I'm looking forward to that one. Moving on to stage 5 though, which is the longest in the race, and after a grueling previous day in the saddle, this is going to be a tough one for the riders. The climbs and gradients are fairly manageable, but the hardest part will be the distance as the race heads into the Vosges region of France.
It is a flattish start where I imagine we will see a fight for the breakaway. 3 QM climbs through the stage will keep the riders on their toes, but in all likelihood it is with this stage will come down to a brunch sprint, potentially the last in the race too, because the remaining stages are increasingly hilly. Or should we say mountainous?
Yeah, it is getting pretty hilly. Stage 6 will see the riders make their way from Saint-Dié-de-Vosges to Rossheim over 128 kilometres. A very undulating route with lots of small climbs scattered throughout the day, including 4 QOMs. The first climb comes just shy of 20 kilometres into the stage, so the riders will need to be well prepared and warmed up for that one.
They will be. The last climb of the day comes with just 9 kilometres to go and averages 6% over 1.3 kilometres. And if some of those fast finishers get over that climb, then they could be within a shout of victory. It will be a quick finale as the race descends down to the line. The penultimate day of the race, stage 7, sees us hit the first official mountain stage. And as you can tell, this is a mountain day just by looking at the profile.
That's tough, doesn't it? A flat start before hitting some of the most challenging climbing in the Vosges. Petit Ballon, a 9.4 kilometre climb at 8.1%, followed by a 7 kilometre climb at 8.3%, and the Grand Ballon, the highest road in the region, which tops out at 1,336 metres. It's a serious climb at 13.5k long with 6.7% average gradient. That final ascent will see the riders stay up on the plateau for 8 kilometres before finishing in Markstein.
Yeah, and the climbs come fairly quickly after each other too. I'm predicting that on that very first climb, we will see a very select group of the best climbers make their way clear of the bunch and battle it out over the next 2 climbs. There will be a serious shake-up of GC today. It is a key stage, but all that is set up for a dramatic final stage. The race route saves the best until last. Le Super Planche de Belleville will conclude the very first Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift.
We have seen firsthand how brutal this climb is in the men's race, with the yellow jersey contenders battling it up the 7 kilometre mountain, which has an average gradient of 8.7% and peak gradient of 24%. It is brutal. I actually rode it myself a few weeks back, and it really is an absolute wall. What makes it even trickier is the gravel those vying for victory will contend with in the final kilometre.
The stage isn't all about the Planche de Belleville though. There is a classified climb of 2.3 kilometres at 8.5% after 52 kilometres too.
Plus, the stage will cross the Ballon d'Alsace, a mythical ascent which was famed to be the first ever climb in the men's Tour de France. 8.7 kilometres long and 6.9% average gradient. They'll cross this with 39 kilometres of the stage remaining.
It is going to be a sensational stage, jam-packed with action, and we can't wait to see how this one pans out and who will finish on top. Talking of which, we've seen the route. Now let's run through some of the main contenders.
Before we move on, we're happy to say that we're giving the Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift the exact same treatment in the app as the men's race. So as well as all the live coverage, highlights and breakaway show, we'll also have loads more cool stuff on the app involving the race that you can make the most of.
Yes, we'll have written stage-by-stage previews, in-depth route tabs for every stage with Velo Viewer graphics, plus other articles around the Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift, from beginner's guide to looking at historic pieces at the previous iterations of the race, as well as interviews, Q&As with several riders.
And of course, all the usual daily quiz, poll, hot or not, and the stats we know you love. You can test your knowledge and share your opinions too. Oh, and I forgot to say, we also have plenty of new Tour de France clothing, which you can find for yourself in the GCN shop. And I'm loving these ones, they're great, actually.
Very nice.
Anyway, let's get back to those contenders. Right, moving on to some of the GC favourites and who will be crowned the very first Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift winner. And I think we'll start with Annemiek van Vleuten.
Yep.
And come on, the race has her name written all over it. She won the Giro Rosa recently, just shy of 2 minutes ahead of second place Marta Cavalli.
But saying that, there is only 2 weeks between the Giro finishing and the Tour starting, and that's not very much time to recover for riders to do 2 big tours back to back.
Van Vleuten, though, is a rider that really does excel in the mountains, and stage 4 with those gravel sections could really suit her. Very similar to Strada, where she got second this year. It's going to be hard to look past her on that summit finish to Planche de Belfi too. The race, I think, working in her favour due to the fact that the key stages come at the end of the 8 stages.
Yeah, she will have a very strong team with Team Movistar with her too, including Sarah Gigante and Emma Norsgaard. Norsgaard with numerous top 10s already to a name this year, and Van Vleuten will definitely be outright favourite going into the race. But she will have lots of other riders hot on her heels wanting that yellow jersey.
#1 ranked team in the world, SD Works, will have their eyes set on overall victory too. They're sending a strong team with Vollering, Kopecky, Mollman, Van den Broek Black and Marlon Rusia.
I have to say, for GC, Mollman could be their very best pick. A super strong climber that will really be at home in those hillier stages of the race, where the GC will be decided, and is on really good form this year, having looked incredibly strong in those tougher races.
Fast finishers, Vollering and Kopecky, I could see targeting the stages. Van den Broek Black will also prove an invaluable super domestique too. Worth pointing out that of all the SD Works riders, only Kopecky rode the Giro, so fairly fresh team too.
Yeah, and hot off the Giro, and one of Van Vleuten's top rivals will be Marta Cavalli of FDJ Nouvelle Aquitaine Futuroscope. Again, a rider that is having one hell of a year, winning Amstel Gold and Flèche Le Bon.
She will also be joined by the one and only Cecil Ludwig plus Grace Brown. Brown, a rider that is getting better and better as the season goes on and seems to love a race with hard terrain going off solo.
Yeah, she does. Canyon Schramm will look to set up Cassia Numa for the yellow. She has ridden a good number of stage races this year in preparation and chose to skip the Giro Donne in bid to target the Tour. 3rd overall at the Women's Tour, her last race. Expect her to put up a good, serious challenge for that overall victory.
Mavi Garcia of UAE Team ADQ will be looking to improve on her 3rd place at the recent Giro Donne. She ended up 5 minutes and 56 seconds back from Van Vleuten on the overall, but showed amazing climbing legs throughout to take a well-earned podium. The Spanish rider will be another key favourite to take yellow atop Planche de Belfi.
But how about Elisa Longo Borghini? The Italian finished 4th at the Giro Donne, so may be considered more of an outside bet compared to the likes of Van Vleuten, but will be a serious challenger for yellow. Winner of the Women's Tour back in June and Paris-Roubaix earlier this year, expect Borghini to go on the hunt for stages at the Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift too.
Her team, Trek Segafredo, will definitely be looking to rack up those stage wins. The likes of Elisa Balsama should help with that, a potential favourite to take the race's opening stage in the first yellow jersey on the Champs-Élysées, as we mentioned earlier. The world champion was on fine form in the Giro Rosa, taking 2 stage wins, and will look to do the same across the bunch sprints in France.
Yeah, Marianne Vos will arguably be the fans' favourite to take the first stage win and potentially a lot of other stages too. A pro since 2006, 3 times world champion and Olympic road race gold medalist back in 2012. How cool would it be to see her take the win or even a spell in yellow at the first edition of the Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift, after all these years of waiting for the race to be added to the calendar?
Lorena Rebus will arguably be the favourite for all sprint stages, however. The Dutch rider for Team TSM has already notched up a remarkable 10 victories this season, including every single stage in the overall at the Ride London Classic in May. She skipped the Giro to focus on the Tour, so expect her to come out from the start looking to take that opening stage in Paris and then continue her winning ways until the roads begin to head uphill later in the race. Lisa
Brunauer of Ceratizic WNT Pro Cycling is another one not to look past when considering the hunt for stage victories. And other riders of note to watch out for include the likes of Amanda Spratt of Team Bike Exchange Jayco, who unfortunately had to pull out of the Giro with a positive COVID test.
Alexander Manley and Ruby Roseman Gannon also make up the Bike Exchange Jayco team. 2 Australian track riders that have come over to Europe and both made a name for themselves on the road scene. Those will be 2 riders to watch out for in the sprint stages. But what about Josh Loudon too, the only rider from Uno X Pro Cycling to have been named so far in their roster, and a rider that thrives in the mountains and could very well be targeting that yellow and polka dot jersey.
Definitely. Those are the favourites to take the limelight in France this July though, but perhaps most importantly, who do we think could win yellow? You go first, Conor.
Well, seeing as I've been asked to go first, I'm going with Van Vleuten. It's hard not to look past her. I mean, she absolutely dominated in the Giro, and I think she's just going to continue that form all the way into the Tour and take yellow again. But what about yourself, Manon?
Well, it's a tough one, and seeing as you've gone for Van Vleuten, I'm going to go for Marta Cavalli, I think.
Okay, so you're going for the second place rider in the Giro?
Yes.
Yeah, because you went second after me. Anyway, enough from us here. Let's see what the other presenters here at GCN are tipping for the yellow when it comes to the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift.
For me, it's got to be Annemiek van Vleuten, 3-time world champion, winner of countless number of races, and excels in the mountains. Plus, she's got a fantastic support team around her as well.
I predict a final victory of an Italian woman in this first edition ever of the Tour de France Femmes by Zwift. Marta Cavalli is going to be my favorite. Racing for a French team, I'm pretty sure she will have an extra motivation, and after being second on the Giro, she will win the Tour.
Hi guys, the Germans here, GCN auf Deutsch. As always with the prediction for the Tour de France Femmes. I'm going with Ashley Moolman-Pasio because I had the pleasure to meet her dog Luna. And I love Luna, I love Ashley, she's going for the win.
Yeah, that's a real indicator of winning the biggest bike race in the world.
Yeah.
But my tip is Annemiek van Vleuten, who won the Giro before, but she will make it.
So there you have it, our big preview for the first ever Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. We are so excited to see the racing underway, and don't forget, you can tune in over on GCN Plus to catch all the stages live and on demand, depending of course on those territory restrictions.
It is going to be a historic race, and we are so proud to be able to show all the action unfold. I for sure cannot wait, and I'm sure you can't either. But let us know down in that comment section below who you are hoping to win yellow and what stage you are most looking forward to. As always, thank you for watching everybody, and we'll see you in the next video.